Maryland Democratic governor and potential 2028 presidential candidate Wes Moore is slamming the Trump administration over its war with Iran. Here's what he told my colleague Ed O'Keefe on Face the Nation.
We are lurching into another one of these forever wars that we're asking the American people to pay for, but the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief has still yet to articulate what exactly it is that we're doing.
And it's not just Democrats attacking the president's handling of the conflict. In response to this post, where Mr. Trump used an expletive and told Iran it'll be, quote, living in hell if it doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz by tomorrow, former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote in part, quote, he has gone insane. She also said, this is not making America great again. This is evil. Joel Payne and Rina Shah are here to discuss this and more. Joel is a CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist. Rina is a former senior GOP congressional advisor. Good Monday morning to you both. Joel, let's start with you. What is your president's take on this threat, and how significant is it the president is facing criticism from more than just Democrats?
Errol, I don't want to try to climb into Donald Trump's head. I think that Truth Social post over the weekend was pretty disgusting, particularly for the tens of millions of American Christians, me of which is one of them, who was enjoying Easter, and many who were enjoying Passover over the last few days. That's disgusting from the President of the United States. Politically, I think what Donald Trump is wrestling with is this thing that Republicans are more broadly wrestling with, which is all of the things that are causing pain for the American people. And we're talking about Iran right now, but whether it's the tariff war, whether it's the big, beautiful bill, whether it's ICE attacking American citizens and Americans' communities all over the country, these are all choices, and these are all Donald Trump's judgment that are causing discomfort and pain. These aren't exigent events that are happening to Donald Trump. This isn't COVID. This isn't some act of God. This is an act of Donald Trump. And Republicans are having to deal with the fallout of Donald Trump's bad choices and bad judgment. And I think that is why the frustration and the consternation is coming across in his public comments. And I don't see anything changing the verve and direction of that.
And Rina, let's drill down on this a little bit. We have this 1 p.m. press conference from the president today, but I want to read a quote to you from Puck article writer Peter Hamby. He wrote after the president's address last week to the nation, quote, the very fact that Trump decided to deliver a rare address to the nation was, on its own, an admission of his diminished political stature. He is not playing offense anymore. What do you make of that? Do you agree? Was it a mistake for the president to call everyone's attention but have no new information, or do you see it differently?
I believe President Trump going before the American people last week was very late. I don't think it needed to happen at the time it did. It should have happened sooner. And I think it's true. He is on shaky ground right now because his messaging has been horrible out of the White House entirely. Ever since the first day of the strikes, I think you've seen numerous members of the administration give different accounts of what's to come. And look, I'll just say this. The backlash we're seeing to this Iran war isn't some partisan intervention. It's real pain that's hitting American families right now, with gas prices climbing, markets being shaky, and polls showing that most folks think that he has gone way too far. So I think that address last week from President Trump tried to frame this Iran war as a decisive win. But again, I think it fell flat. I think when he tried to say that nukes are neutralized and the military has been degraded and the mission there that we are on is nearly complete, people could tell that's not exactly true because he gave mixed signals. He said, we're finishing the job 1 minute, and then he said, we'll hit them extremely hard for the next 2 to 3 weeks and then bomb them back to the Stone Ages the next. I think that left a lot of people uneasy, including many Republicans. So I'll say strong action against a real threat is one thing, and I agree with that, but endless escalation without a clear off-ramp just fuels the very chaos that so many Republicans wanted to stop.
Right, and we just saw some recent polling from weeks ago where most Americans felt the war was not going well. So we'll see if there's a change in that opinion. Joel, later this week, several possible 28 Democratic contenders are speaking to the National Action Network convention in New York City, including former VP Kamala Harris. She went after the president on social media over the weekend. I think we have some sound of that.
Donald Trump basically issued an executive order to attack your ability to vote by mail. And of course, the reality is that he goes down to his resort at Mar-a-Lago and does what? He votes by mail. So he wants to be able to do it, but he doesn't want you to. Why do you think that is? Because he is afraid of your power, and he is afraid of losing the midterms.
So, Joel, a lot of attention was put on that EO, but the state of democracy isn't as important to Americans as their own pocketbooks and the economy. So should Harris and other Democrats largely focus on the economy at this Friday's event, or does that democracy message still stick?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by, what we are careening into, which is the 2028 presidential cycle. It's already coming to us, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this, not just from Vice President Harris, but from scores of other Democrats who are going to be potentially vying for that nomination for 2028. And what Kamala Harris did there, she did a good job of what a lot of Democrats are doing, which is countering Donald Trump and is offering a critique of Donald Trump. That is one part of what you have to do as a Democrat. The second part of what you have to do is you have to offer a countering worldview of how you are going to make people's lives better. And I think that the vice president certainly has the capacity to do that. She did some of that in her campaign. I think that will be called upon again. I think other Democrats who hope to win the trust and win the support of Democrats in the primary contest are going to have to do that. So again, the critique of Trump is fine. That is one thing. You have to offer a critique of the system, and you have to offer an actual aspirational message that are going to bring people together in your coalition. And I think I'll be looking for that when all of these Democratic hopefuls speak at the National Action Convention coming up this week, and in other of these larger platforms that are going to be coming up in the coming days and weeks.
So, Rina, as we wrap up, how can Republicans best counter whatever momentum Democrats may gain after Friday?
I believe that's going to be a tough one for the Republicans. I mean, how do you do that when the 2028 cattle calls have already begun? And especially for what Reverend Al Sharpton is hosting up there in New York, it's going to be his big 35th anniversary convention. And I think it's going to be very important for people to tune in. You've got these big names, again, Kamala Harris, Buttigieg, Shapiro, Pritzker, Moore. They're all going to be doing fireside chats. And there's going to be a really heavy focus on civil rights, DEI pushback, voting access, and economic justice for Black and brown communities. I myself have attended before just to listen. I think it's really smart politics for Democrats. They're trying to rally the base where it lives, and they're trying to frame everything as a moral emergency under Trump 2.0. That could always backfire. But I think the bigger picture is that while Democrats huddle in Times Square talking identity and grievances, everyday Americans are staring down higher grocery bills and an unpredictable war. So my read is that this event shows that the party's doubling down on its core playbook, which is a good thing, and it'll fire up the progressive crowd and set the stage for a very crowded primary, which could always go one way or the other. But I think it also risks looking somewhat tone deaf if they ignore the foreign policy and pocketbook realities that are dominating the news. So expect plenty of 2028 positioning, but zero on new ideas on ending this Iran war, which is dominating everybody's minds. Doesn't matter your party affiliation.
Yeah. Well, Rina Shaw, Joel Payne, great to discuss these issues with you this Monday morning. Thanks for your time.